Hi, my name is Bianca Ariel. I'm an advisor and lead marketing coordinator at Maslow Wealth Advisors. And in my hot seat today is Kevin Tiernan. Kevin is a senior advisor and partner at Maslow Wealth Advisors. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Outside of the office, Kevin is a dad of three, a youth sports coach,
Yes.
and an avid lacrosse fan.
I am.
And he also loves traveling with his family, so he's kind of an expert at that. If you have any questions, he can definitely help you out there. Kevin has also been an integral part of our business development here since he joined the firm in 2022.
That's it.
So Kevin, I'd love to know a little bit more about sort of you and what insights that you have. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Kevin was, prior to being at Maslow, at BlackRock and Dimensional Fund Advisors. So I think some of that might tie into what you're doing here. Could you walk us down sort of the path that you've taken to get to where you are today?
Yeah. Good question. Thank you. In short summary, I grew up in New York, right outside New York City. I graduated college in the early 2000s, and that was a time period where a lot of people, at least in and around New York, went to work on Wall Street. And I thought, at least at the time, that was what smart, hardworking people do. And I pursued it, and I got a job at a big global asset manager, and I really enjoyed it. I did. I learned a lot. I got to travel. I got a better understanding of how markets work and investing in different securities and asset classes, and I got to meet a lot of great people, and I'm grateful for that time. But, and there's always a but, it wasn't always the most fulfilling work for me. Dealing with institutions and even large wealth management firms can be somewhat transactional, and that was a part for me I never really got fulfillment out of. And that, there's a lot of nobility in that work, but when I thought about the scope of my career and my life, I didn't want that to be the only thing. So I was lucky enough to work with Maslow as a client at a former job, and I got to understand who they were as people, the business they were building, the people they served, and really thoroughly enjoyed everything I learned about the firm. So, over time, and through a lot of conversations, we found a place where it made sense for me to come on board. And that was 3 years ago, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You have sort of an investment-heavy background with the prior experience that you've had. What kind of transition period was that to go from being investments focused to becoming an advisor?
Yeah. When I was at my last company, the scope of that work was really working with large wealth management firms. And, through that work, I got to see a lot of the different aspects of who they served and what they provided them. And I saw a lot of great firms, and I saw a lot of firms that, in my humble opinion, really weren't serving people as well as they could. And within that, what I got to do was partner with a lot of these firms on some of their specific client meetings and larger client events. And I really got to understand what, in my opinion, good financial advice looked like. I think building financial plans, building recommended portfolios is becoming kind of table stakes in our industry. But what I observed is the people that were really, I think, operating at a high level really understood the human being across the table and what they were effectively buying from the firm, and could really speak to that well. And a lot of that has to do with human behavior than it does, arithmetic or numbers.
Yeah, it's more about managing what you're thinking than just managing what you're doing a little bit.
Yeah, and I think helping people examine some of their goals, and really, not in a judgmental way, but really help them understand, is this the right goal for you? And life changes, markets change, but being able to consistently and objectively help them always redefine that and always feel comfortable that they're pointing in the right way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, what are you excited about for the future, for working with clients, for progress along the way?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question, Bianca, and not always the easiest question to answer about the future and what it entails. But to that former point, I really think like as this industry evolves, a lot of it will become more systematic, meaning computers will help financial advisors design financial plans. It will help us design asset allocation, and it already is to some extent. But I think the future of this is really focusing on people, not just numbers, and helping people understand all the biases that we all have, myself included, and really help them have a better relationship with that, understand it better, and make better decisions off the back of that. So I try to build that into all client meetings, and I think it's been additive. I probably should ask some of the clients, but I really think a lot of what we do is based on math, but a lot of what we do is based on psychology and just human behavior.
And when we talk about human behavior, there's a lot of things that people go through throughout their lives that is relevant not just to a client, but relevant to all of us. You, for example, have your own personal story of maybe a cautionary tale of an overfunded 529. Would you like to share a little bit more about kind of your own experience with financial planning there?
Yeah. And, it's one of the hallmark moments in my life that kind of raised a flag that said, hey, maybe, financial planning was something more I was passionate about. But the story that Bianca's referencing is that when my oldest daughter was born, and she just turned 19 last year, we opened up a 529 plan for her, and I found it fun. I used every calculator on the internet I could find about, savings rates, projected, portfolio returns, inflation on higher education, and every quarter, probably too many quarters, I would rebalance the portfolio. I would look at it. I would make sure that we were on track. I picked the school that she was going to attend, like all good dads should do.
Might have been the first step in red flags.
Yeah, asking better questions. But my daughter, who I'm super proud of, she's a great kid, hardworking, smart, got really good grades throughout high school. About a year and a half ago, she approached us and said that she might not be interested in going to college right away. She's been into horseback riding her whole life. She loves it. She's passionate about it. She's committed a lot of time. It's one of those endeavors as a parent, like you didn't need to wake your kid up to do. She kind of woke up on her own. But through this conversation, she told us that, she might not be ready and willing to go to college right after high school graduation, which, as a parent, I obviously had a problem with. But the funny thing about, raising these little human beings is that the older they get, they make very rational arguments and cite sound evidence. And her point was that she didn't know what she wanted to major in yet. She wasn't in love with any of the college she got into, but she was in love with horseback riding. And somewhat painfully, we all agreed that she was going to take a gap year. And it took a lot of courage for her to voice that to us. And again, I'm proud of her for it. But the aftermath of that was that I had this very overfunded 529 that we didn't need right away, but I had a very underfunded horseback riding portfolio that I needed to adjust for. So, the story, or maybe the analogy I give to clients is that, we project into the future, we model out for the future, but we don't know the future. And the future is always subject to change. And I think good financial planning is focusing on the future and goals, but realizing that they're probably going to change on some level, and making adjustments all along the way. And I probably could have benefited from that advice.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's good. I mean, it teaches you your own lesson when you're talking to clients. It teaches you to be, adaptable when you're building out people's financial plans. It teaches you, all sorts of different lessons. And I think like that's so helpful when you're talking to clients. Like, hey, maybe, you should think a little bit about what the goal for your child might be instead of just what your goal for your child might be. Yeah, it's super important.
Yeah, raising kids, raising daughters can be a very humbling process. And
going through it myself.
Yeah, good luck.
So you are a big, family guy. You're talking about your kids. You also go on a ton of family vacations together. Do you have sort of a favorite experience that you've done with the kids and your family?
Yeah, there's probably some recency bias here, but I wrote recently about a trip we took to Ireland this past summer. And, the thesis behind it, one was just to show the kids life outside of America. I think we can all be very insular in our little communities. But I think the gift of travel is getting to meet people from different countries, different cultures, and hopefully realizing that we have a lot more in common than we do that separates us. But, one of the fondest memories is I thought it was a great idea to rent a car there and drive all around the country on very small roads, driving on the left side of the road and driving a car with the wheel on the right side, and also driving stick, which I haven't done in 19 years. So all of that culminated in a few very scary white-knuckle moments of being on a motorway, entering a roundabout, and really not quickly knowing if I should go or they should go. But, the takeaway was we still laugh about that. I think we built a lot of long-lasting memories as a family, the good and the scary. And it's something I'm grateful for that, the kids will remember for a very long time.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm just thinking about, here in Texas, people can barely drive on their own side of the road. So to switch it and put a bunch of kids in the car panicking, it probably was a super fun experience.
There's some terror involved in that. Yeah. But we're here, we're back, we made it, and hopefully better off for it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. My last question for you is going to be a little bit kind of personal as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what the idea of wealth means to you. What does that represent?
God, that's a tough one right there. But I think all people that work in financial advice have an answer, should have an answer. But I remember when we've talked about this in the past, and first thing for me, and I like to articulate to clients, is money and wealth are separate. And it's a good heuristic just to think about it separately. I know I have, I know you have, I know everyone hopefully watching this has, but I've met a lot of people in my life that I would consider extremely wealthy, but might not have, the biggest portfolio in the world. And that wealth is through, the people they've served, the communities they've helped, the families they've raised, and, pursuing a calling, whatever that may be, in work, in military, in church, in faith. So I like to, just separate those two when we sit down with people. But I do think, we help people manage their money, and that is the core of what we do. Money, in my mind, helps people, one, live with a lot more freedom, pursue the life that is in line with their values and goals. I think also hopefully it buys you time. You can pay for the right to do things or have other people do things that frees you up to really spend time on things that are most important to you. And time is always our most precious resource. But for me personally, one thing I try to keep in mind is that, and some smart contemplative said this, that, money helps solve money problems. It doesn't solve the other problems you might have in your life. So really, when I try to work with families and, just hopefully label that and bring that to the surface, and help them, have a better relationship with that, not judgmental, but just understand that, this money is going to help solve a lot of things for you and your family in the future, but there's a lot of things it won't solve. And that's, the inner work, that's some of the hardest work to do. Yeah. But some of the most beneficial. And I think, again, good financial advice helps free people up to not worry about money and pursue things that are, of much greater value in their life and their meaning. So that's part of what gets me out of bed every day.
Yeah, it's thinking, money is sort of a tool, but wealth is, actually having those things, not necessarily things, but the surrounding, the happiness, the fulfilling aspect, whereas money is just a means to get there.
Absolutely.
But it's not necessarily everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had the privilege of working with some families across generations, parents, their children, even their grandchildren, and when you have time to connect with them personally, they don't talk about money. They talk about their connection. They talk about their community, their family, their experiences, and I think it's through the realization over time that money has not bought them that. It's helped facilitate certain things, but it's not the goal. It's a means to an end.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for joining me today. Thank you, everyone, for watching and following along. If you like the videos that we're putting out, feel free to let us know what else you'd like to see. But we'll see you for the next one. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can add one last thing, we have gotten feedback that you need to be interviewed at some point. So stay tuned, and hopefully you'll get to see Bianca do this.